It's so easy for all of us, myself included, to see that number, see it going in that direction, and talk ourselves into the spiral of, oh my gosh, I made this change. Now I have this specific outcome with the scale. This is not moving in the direction I want to go. And then what do? We immediately want to revert to what we were doing before.
Let's link up with Krysta on The Fix. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
Hey, Fix listeners, welcome back to our latest episode of the Fix podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber. Happy September, everybody. It is a new month. It is the start of the fall season. And this is the time where so many people are like, I'm ready to get back into it. I want to reprioritize my fitness and nutrition goals. The travel has slowed down a bit. You're back into more of a routine if you might have kids in school. We're moving into the very last quarter of the year here. And this is the time when intentions you had for yourself in January start to come back into focus. And so often, I myself do this as a coach, we talk about what we need to do and the actions that we need to take to become the person who loses the weight, keeps it off, changes their lifestyle, has more energy, gains more confidence, and on and on and on and on. And that's important. That's a tactical work, right? Knowing that you have a game plan is so much of what I find people lack before coming to the Fitness Fix. And what does that look like? It looks like the person who is saying things like, I know I'm eating healthy. Like I know that I'm choosing fruits and vegetables. I know that I'm prioritizing protein. And yet I feel this disconnect because I'm not getting the results that I want. I am looking for somebody to give me the reassurance that I am eating the quote unquote right things to get the results that I want. And all of that is well and good, because the fact that you don't have that roadmap, the fact that you lack that clarity, what does that do? That puts you in a place where, one, you're frustrated because you feel stuck. And two, that frustration compounds into things like self-sabotage, because you're saying to yourself, here I am, being healthy, eating the correct things, moving my body, going for a walk, hydrating, and yet I don't look the way that I want to look. I have been that person on more than one occasion, so I fully empathize with that. However, I'm going to keep this episode fairly brief, and I want you to consider one question for yourself as you move through this month of September. I will give you some examples to guide you in the right direction so that we can still make this tactical. But I did a mini training with my clients just last week as we rounded out the end of the summer, as we said goodbye to August, and we're moving into September as sort of a cultural reset, if you will, to ask them to get really clear on what it is that they want. So revisiting some of their goals, asking themselves to reflect on the summer and whether they felt that they did show up, that they did take those action steps. But then I asked them another question. And I want you to take the time to do the same thing for yourself. If you are somebody who comes back to this podcast every single week, one of my true hopes with it is that you take something away from it every single time. And when I do give the suggestion of an activity for yourself, this is also something that really doesn't take a long time. I encourage you to do it. Just take the pause, reflect for a couple of minutes. If you happen to be out on a walk, this is the perfect time for you to mull this question over. And I love that I might be the person in your ear who has that influence to get you thinking about things a little bit differently. So in a season when so many people are like, I'm going to put XYZ on my to-do list and I'm going to accomplish a 5-pound weight loss over the next month, or by the end of the year, I aim to lose 15, 20 pounds, whatever it is. We all, again, like I said, tend to focus on the tactical, the what do I need to do, the eat more protein, get to the gym consistently, push myself by lifting heavier weights in the gym. I'm going to flip that on its head. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked my clients last week inside of our group coaching call. And that's this: what do you need to let go of to become the person who achieves that goal, who's already achieved that goal? We spend so much time thinking about how to move forward. And of course, I don't want you to look in the rear view, but most of what's holding you back is stories, or our stories, I should say, that you need to let go of, things that you need to get rid of. And I see this time and again. And a great example is when it comes to the scale. I had a great conversation, probably even a little bit uncomfortable conversation for the client just the other day around the scale going up. And in this client's case, she's made some changes to her training and is focusing more on lifting heavier weight versus the past of more low impact Pilates bar type workouts, which there's nothing wrong with, and they're all well and good. But based on the results that she desires and the goals that she has, we both agreed it makes more sense to focus on lifting heavier weights and focus on progressive overload. So she's been doing that for the past week and a half. She stepped on the scale just the other day and the scale went up. It's so easy for all of us, myself included, to see that number, see it going in that direction, and talk ourselves into the spiral of, oh my gosh, I made this change. Now I have this specific outcome with the scale. This is not moving in the direction I want to go. And then what do? We immediately want to revert to what we were doing before. But as she and I continued to kind of unpack this, the first layer of it that we noticed was the fact that, one, she was operating from a place of fear in wanting to go back to what she was doing before, because the scale was at least being consistent before. But the bigger goal that we have for her is more about actually changing the shape of her physique, specifically her body composition, and looking more lean and toned. And when I asked her a few more questions about her safety and her comfort in the different workouts she was doing in the past, what we actually came to agreement on was the fact that the scales really only moved about 4 pounds over the last year. And we can all agree that a 4-pound move in a year doesn't necessarily excite most of us. Yes, it's a weight loss, but over the course of 365 days, I could go up to any single person on the street and you'd all be like, yeah, that's not enough. Myself included. I would, for putting in the effort, committing to the process, tracking your food on a regular basis, still finding the balance and living your life, to have quote unquote only lost 4 pounds in a year, that could be a little bit discouraging. So in that alone, that realization, we agreed like, hey, this is a safety, this is a comfort, because you're at least somewhat satisfied. Like you're okay. You're pleasantly happy with this physique because it wasn't the one you had before. But then we started to peel back the onion a little bit further. I explained to her and reiterated, and I think this is an important reminder for everyone out there, when the scale goes up, that doesn't immediately mean fat gain. And I've actually shared this client's progress pictures on social media pretty recently. And so many of you couldn't believe there was only a 4 to 5 pound difference between her pictures because she looks really different. And when we see the scale go up, that can be due to a poor night's sleep. It can be due to where you are in your cycle. It can be due to what time you ate dinner the night before. It can be whether you've gone to the bathroom yet this morning. It can come from exercise, because that is a form of stress. So when the scale is going up, that's not actual fat gain that we're seeing. What we're actually seeing is just you holding onto water. I had a trainer say years ago, and I always love this analogy, that because the human body is made up of about 60% water, like that's a lot of our body composition, we're basically like cucumbers with emotions. And I love the example of cucumbers because I feel like that's not one that people often use. But knowing that, we should then expect these fluctuations with the amount of water that then gets captured on the scale. And because exercise is a form of stress, what happens is your body saying, oh, I have this perceived stress that turns into inflammation. Inflammation in this case isn't actually a bad thing. It's your body protecting itself from the stress that you actually put on the system. And it's this way of repairing. So while we may be seeing this climb in this one direction, we want to remember it only becomes an antagonist to our goals when the real cause for it is excess calories. As in, if you were to gain a pound overnight of actual material fat, in addition to your body's caloric minimum, which is not 0 calories, by the way, even if you sat on the couch all day, You still need to eat a minimum number of calories to survive, for your brain to function, for me to sit here and do this podcast, to form sentences, to have the cognitive ability to do anything. And I mean anything as in like just your liver, your heart, like all of your body's most basic functions. You need a minimum number of calories to do that. And it's not 1,000. All right. So let's just call that number 2,000 to make this math super easy. In order for you to gain an actual pound of body fat, you would have then had to eat an additional 3,500 calories the day before. So that would mean that you would need to consume over 5,000 calories in one day. Unless you are going out to eat for multiple meals and truly saying, fuck it, like maybe you're having 3 pints of Ben & Jerry's plus everything else that you're eating, that's not happening. Especially for my ladies out there who are so conscious of thinking that they need to eat less. Most days when you're in this mode of trying to lose weight, that's not the approach that you're taking to food. Is it happening maybe once or twice a week when you throw in drinks and stuff like that into the mix? Yeah, but we're talking more like 2,800 calories, not 5,500 plus calories. So we had that conversation. We've grounded ourselves in the facts, in the science behind it. And then I asked her to go one step further. And I said, there's more to this. Like, where is this coming up for you? And what we ultimately spun this into was realizing that the story on the scale is rooted in this idea of not being enough. And that actually shows up in other areas of this person's life, in their personal relationships, in how they handle their career, and a lot of their beliefs. So first we could say maybe she needs to let go of the scale, but I would actually push it a step further, which is what we really did talk about. And it's letting go of this idea that you're not enough and leaning into this idea that you are enough. And when you let go of the idea that you're not enough, when you let go of this need to prove and prove and prove, that will actually have a domino effect on the decisions you make. And that's where we get back to all the tactical, all the tangible, all the action steps that we need to take. But more importantly, it taps you into the energy. It helps you show up as the person who's already lost the weight. Because ideally, the person who's already lost the weight, if she's doing it from a place of wanting to take care of herself, of wanting to respect herself, of wanting to honor herself, she already believes that she is enough. And she won't continue to carry these stories around spiraling every time she steps on the scale because she's not putting her self-worth into that anymore. And when she can remove some of that emotional roller coaster and maintain this more of like an even neutral place, things calm down internally. It's not even about saying to somebody like, hey, I don't want you to freak out about the scale. We all do it. But it's more about like, what is that emotional roller coaster that you're putting yourself on every time you step on it and then immediately judge yourself if you don't like the number you see? Your brain is so powerful and your nervous system picks up on that frustration. And then that turns into that negative self-talk. And all you are doing is rewiring your brain to believe that you're not doing a good job, that you're not doing enough, that you're never going to get to where you want to go, that this is too hard. Oh, and by the way, that you lifting heavier weight is not the thing that's going to get you the results that you want. If you say that, it will be true. So I want you to ask yourself, moving into this new month and moving into the rest of the year, instead of thinking about what has to be done, think about what we need to leave behind. What are you leaving in your rearview mirror? What do you need to let go of to get the results that you want? And if this moves you in any way, send me a DM. I want to hear. I asked all of my clients to personally reach out to me and tell me what they needed to let go of to set their sights on whatever goal they're setting for the month of September. And I'd love to hear from you guys. I so appreciate when you message me and give me feedback on these episodes. Knowing that it can even help one person is the reason why I continue to do this every single week. But I also fucking love having these types of conversations. So let's do it in the DMs. Shoot me a note over at the Krysta Huber so that I can cheer you on, hold you accountable, and help you make this happen. And with that, from wherever you're listening from, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next week.